Well, hey guys, it's Michael here. Welcome back to part 6 of the Mini Pinzgauer 6x6 off-road series. In this video, we're actually going to be getting a lot more done on the cab. So we're going to start off with cutting a bunch of floorboards for the rest of this cab. Hopefully start working on a grill. We're getting really close to actually starting this thing up. All right, just got a new tool. It's a bead roller. I've never had a need for one of these tools in the past, but now we're doing the body work on here, I'm going to start cutting out one of the floorboards for this thing, and it'd be cool to do some bead rolling just to strengthen it up a little bit. Tool I have is rated for 18 gauge. This is 16, but that's all I got. So let's start cutting out a floorboard here. So first off, we're actually going to cut the floorboards for this thing. It's going to be made out of really thin 20 gauge. It's just going to come up over here to about this location. We're also going to have a hole cut in it so we can service shock later if we have to. This is all going to be basically sitting under the bench. But we're going to ring roll these parts and make it a little extra stiff. So let's go over to the CNC and cut those out next. All right, as you can see, we're getting a lot of use out of that bead roller. A year ago, if you would have asked me if I needed one in my shop, I would have said no. I barely knew what they actually did at the time. But it's really coming together on this project. I'm happy. It adds a lot of rigidity to all these body panels. Everything on here is tacked down except for the center panel, because I'm still working out the brake lines and welding up some framework for installing the winch up front here. And we got to work out the shift cable. Originally, this had a hard kind of a little linkage, a little rod to shift it. And keep in mind, you used to ride back here. So we're relocating and building a shifter and all that. So I got this shift cable off of, I think, a Polaris Ranger. I'll put some specs on the brake lines I ordered too. Basically, I'm going from banjo to 7/16 by 24-inch thread. This thing, the original Polaris, had a lot of threads that looked like something you'd use on car brake line fittings. And after picking around some adapters and ordering some brake lines from different machines, I was able to adapt it all up. Let's get in fixing up the brakes, get the front brakes hooked up and bled, and start working on that shift line. So here's a quick tip if you're working on stubborn brake lines. Basically, I had to free this caliper up and put a new one on here. You know, you could cut the lines and just go with brand new lines, but the reason I'm trying to salvage these things is Polaris must like lace these things with gold, because this 2 foot or less rubber flexible brake line sells for $60 to $70 a side on eBay. Don't want to waste the money on that because they look like they're actually going to be fine. What happens is up here, this threaded tapered part actually gets corroded onto the actual brake line itself. They don't want to come off. Of course, you can grab a brake line wrench, but usually they flare out. That's why I got vice grips clamped on here, so that's a little tip. But I knew it was going to trash the actual nut on this. I was able to take this caliper off, keep this thing fixed, unthread the caliper off of here. Once I got that removed, I sprayed this down with a little bit of PB Blaster, and I was able to run back and forth gently an impact gun, going both directions until I was able to free this thing up. And it's actually spinning nice now, so we salvaged this line. That's 60, 70 bucks I saved on this job. If it was 20 bucks, I'd just buy new lines, but they're not 20 bucks. All right, let's get these brakes working. All right, got the brakes all hooked up. Now they're not permanent the way that's worked out right now. This is just enough to drive around on flat ground. I still have to hook up the hydraulic parking brake, and I still need to reconfigure this first master cylinder to just the front brakes as priority. Right now it's going to the front brakes and this main centerline transmission disc. But basically we're going to run just priority front and the second master cylinder, center line disc, and one rear caliper. And the second rear caliper is going to be for the hydraulic parking brake. That's good enough for now. Maybe you wonder why I got some chunks of plywood over here. It's going to go on the build, believe me. It's going to be good. Not right now though. First we're going to get on to installing the winch properly. they look pretty good. Let's get this thing welded up. All right, got this winch all mounted up here. I still have to wire it up, but that's gonna come later once we close the front of this thing. One thing I wanna point out, even if I got that fancy CNC machine, doesn't mean you can't build plates like this easily with an angle grinder, some cardboard, tape measure, and some Sharpie markers. It's all pretty straightforward stuff. Now we're gonna get on to actually hooking up the shift linkage. All right, you guys, I'm pretty excited that we got the shifter finally hooked up. This is one of the bigger mechanical things we had to sort out, one of the last big ones on here. Here's that plywood I talked about earlier. We didn't get to building a bench seat on here, but the next video we'll for sure get that done, little creature comforts. So plywood, we got some foam, and we got some pleather to wrap this thing. It should be pretty good. Some of you guys might wonder why the shifter's so low. Basically, I want to keep this whole area wide open, and I wanted it way down out of the way because my son's going to be cruising around next to me like this, and I just want to keep it out of the way so it wasn't going to hit him in the leg or anything like that. And another thing is, it's not like a 4 or 5 speed gearbox. Basically, it's got a CV transmission, so you're going to select high, low, or reverse and cruise around in it. Mostly probably cruising around in low range. So before you guys click off, I want to recommend another YouTube channel, and I want to mention what I think we're going to be able to get done in the next video. So the YouTube channel is called itsDeza, and these guys seem like they have a really good fun time on a budget overlanding. They got Toyotas and they got some Jeeps. Came across their channel recently when I was installing a Lock-Right rear differential lock in my Suzuki Sidekick, and they just seem to have a pretty good outlook on everything. So I'll put a link below to their channel. If you like it, give them a thumbs up, leave a comment, and consider subscribing. Now, what can we expect in the next video on this build here? What I'm thinking we should be able to get done is I got to work out one more safety lock on the transmission with the solenoid. Probably get that installed. And then if we cut an exhaust flange on the CNC table, I can weld up exhaust system. We can put a temporary gas tank on here, and we should be able to drive this around on its own power. We're not going to have the front hubs lockable yet because they work off electricity, 12 volts, and we won't have that wired up. But it will be really nice to drive this around a little bit and test the temporary brakes. We still got more brake work to do. But it should be pretty cool, so we should be able to get this thing running and driving in the next episode. Alright you guys, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below. Till next time, take care. Bye.